Hey everyone, this is Fernanda, and on this video I'm gonna be talking about the meaning behind the lyrics and our latest video clip of our brand new unreleased track from Echoes of the Soul called I Resign. So, although the lyrics could pretty much be interpreted as being about one of those tough periods we go through in which we believe we won't be able to hold on or have enough strength to carry on, or it could be about the many times we thought of giving up a relationship or a friendship, or just giving up while facing any hardship up in general. Or it could also be about resigning a job, like many people apparently joked about, which I hope they wouldn't if they knew the real subject of the song. But anyways, it's not that there's any problems at all on assuming any of those things about the lyrics. And I think that's what's magical about art. We can take it as it resonates with us and it's fine. But in this specific song, the lyrics have a way deeper meaning than it apparently shows. So the I Resign lyrics, they talk about a very peculiar syndrome called Resignation syndrome. And that's why I chose the verb resign. It was not just a random choice for a synonym of giving up, It was a conscious choice, so it had a relation to the name of the syndrome itself. Resignation or traumatic withdrawal syndrome is a syndrome that mostly and psychologically affects immigrant or refugee children and teenagers, especially after hard and traumatic migration processes. The limbo where the refugees find themselves while fleeing from dangerous circumstances in their own countries, being vulnerable while finding refuge in other countries, or facing the possibility of deportation are basically the root cause of the syndrome. So it's a social - political - cultural bond syndrome. So the children with this syndrome, they firstly start presenting depression symptoms like apathy and stuff like that. Then they become socially withdrawn. And then after that, they start getting completely speechless. And then after that, they start getting completely motionless. And finally, they fall into a coma. Yeah, the kids fall into a coma, like a full comatose state where they even have to be fed by tube and all that. And the main causes are stress, hopelessness, and lack of stability or certain future. Usually, it's all of them together. They basically feel so distressed and hopeless that they just shut down to the world because they simply can't handle reality. I mean, no one should have to go through this amount of suffering, but especially children, This condition can usually last for years, and the cases where the children were actually back to their normal life happened after several months following the restoration of stability and hope within their families. They basically only recover when they have guarantee that they're gonna be safe and there's guarantee that their life circumstances will improve somehow. It's a relatively new psychological condition, but it has been recently officialized as a syndrome, and further studies will prove if it's either going to be considered an actual disorder or a form of post-traumatic disorder. Also, because it's still something new, doctors still struggle diagnosing it and finding effective treatment for it. So the actual number of children affected by resignation syndrome can be way bigger than it is actually reported, just because it's still new and hard to be diagnosed. I first heard about this condition, the resignation syndrome, after watching the documentary Life Overtakes Me. But you can find several documentaries and reports and articles that cover this all over the internet. It's out there. So the idea I had for the lyrics was trying to depict the feeling of someone going through this, and also to raise awareness on the topic. As for the video, we thought of a both figurative and poetic way of representing this terrible syndrome. So the actor waking up like confused and running around represents the shock of dealing with such a crushing new reality and trying to understand it and adapt to this limbo that I mentioned previously. The door represents the hope of getting shelter or starting a new life, while the barbed wire represents all the obstacles facing during this whole process. When the actor falls, after opening the door and seeing there's nothing out there but the very limbo he was trying to escape from, it actually represents the lack of stability and the uncertainty found by many refugees, like having their permanence denied, the difficulty trying to cross borders, the prejudice suffered while trying to establish a new life, and mainly the threat of deportation and coming back to the dangerous reality they were trying to escape from, among many other stuff, of course. When he falls down to the ground, it represents the moment when the sufferers of this condition actually start giving up their realities. And finally, the white eyes represent the coma, represent the comatose state to which they drifted in and where they could stay for months or years in a row. And the last scene with the moving fingers there on the ground, it actually represents the hope for recovery. This song was written a long time ago. It was recorded in early 2020 along with all the other tracks from Echoes of the Soul. And this release had been planned for months now to actually happen by early March. So it was just a sad coincidence that it was released a bit after the whole refugee flux due to the invasion in Ukraine. It's really hard to say exactly how many refugees there are currently because there are multiple conflicts going on in the world right now. But there's an estimate I found from June 2021 that actually states that there were at that time around 82 million people forcibly displaced from their homes due to wars and other social political problems. Now, 9 months after these statistics I found, you can definitely add at least 1 million more from Ukraine and thousands more from other regions like Somalia and Palestine, etc., etc. Sadly, children represent over 40% of these refugees, which is just a terrifying number since they're some of the most vulnerable victims during a war. Resignation syndrome has been mainly diagnosed in just a few countries, and it's not known what's the percentage of children affected by wars that actually developed resignation syndrome. But either way, just in a general way, it's just a common sense that the psychological damage of being a child refugee can have like a horrible extent to these children's lives and future and minds and health. Spreading the word and getting to understand a little bit better about this syndrome and the wars going on in the world right now can definitely help raising awareness. But in case you got sensitized after this video and felt like helping in a more direct way, I selected two pretty well-known and very active organizations to which you can contribute. Both of them look after children with resignation syndrome too, not only but also. The links for them are going to be on the video's description. And both seem to be pretty reliable. There's no scandals connected to them, and their transparency rates are impressively high. So the first one I want to mention is Doctors Without Borders. I myself have been a donator for this one for years in a row now. They provide medical care for refugees and displaced people all over the world and look after vulnerable communities affected by natural disasters and armed conflicts. And the second one is Save the Children, which is focused on children. The name itself says that. They help refugee children during humanitarian crisis and children deprived of basic needs such as food, shelter, or safety. They also advocate for public policies that protect children's rights. So this is it. Sorry, it was a bit of a long video, but you saw it's such a deep, kind of harsh content subject. But I hope you liked this video. I hope you could understand a little bit more about the meaning behind the lyrics and behind the video clip. And I hope you liked the song itself, and stay tuned because we still have lots of more stuff to be releasing regarding this song. That's it. I Resign.